As the 1980s began, the National Football League was no longer just a sports organization, it was a cultural movement. Stadiums filled to capacity every Sunday, television ratings soared, and players became larger-than-life celebrities. The league entered an era of innovation, rivalry, and transformation. The 1980s produced dynasties, legends, and unforgettable moments that would forever define the NFL's place in American life. The decade began with the emergence of the Oakland Raiders, led by owner Al Davis, whose motto, "Just win, baby," captured the fierce spirit of the league. The Raiders embodied rebellion and power, winning Super Bowl 15 and later moving to Los Angeles, where they became a symbol of toughness and style. Meanwhile, Joe Montana and coach Bill Walsh revolutionized the game in San Francisco with their West Coast offense, a passing strategy built on precision and timing. The San Francisco 49ers dominated the decade, winning 4 Super Bowls and creating a dynasty fueled by brilliance, discipline, and teamwork. The NFL's popularity surged even further as television networks realized the league's unmatched entertainment value. Monday Night Football became a national tradition, combining sport and showmanship under bright lights. Announcers like Howard Cosell added drama to every play, and halftime shows began to feature big-name performers. Football was no longer confined to Sunday afternoons, it was an everyday part of American identity. The 1980s also saw the rise of unforgettable players who became legends of the sport. Walter Payton, nicknamed Sweetness, showcased unmatched grace and strength as one of the greatest running backs in history. Lawrence Taylor, the New York Giants' fierce linebacker, redefined defensive play with his speed and aggression. Teams like the Chicago Bears, with their iconic 1985 season and dominant defense led by coach Mike Ditka, became cultural icons. Their swagger, unity, and dominance represented the essence of 1980s America, bold, brash, and confident. However, not everything was perfect. The league faced challenges with player strikes in 1982 and 1987, disrupting seasons and sparking debates over salaries and labor rights. Yet even these conflicts highlighted how valuable the NFL had become. Players wanted fair compensation for a sport that was now generating millions in revenue. Despite the turbulence, fans remained loyal, and when the games returned, so did the excitement. The late 1980s and early 1990s brought new stars and a fresh wave of change. The Buffalo Bills, led by quarterback Jim Kelly, became one of the most dominant teams of the era, reaching 4 consecutive Super Bowls, though heartbreakingly losing each one. Meanwhile, the Dallas Cowboys began rebuilding a dynasty under owner Jerry Jones, coach Jimmy Johnson, and quarterback Troy Aikman. By the mid-1990s, they would rise again to become America's team, capturing 3 Super Bowl titles and dominating. In the early years of the 20th century, American football was a rough, loosely organized sport played mainly by colleges and small local clubs. Crowds gathered around dusty fields where players wore little protective gear and rules changed from town to town. The game was growing in popularity, but it lacked structure, safety, and the professional organization needed to turn it into a national spectacle. Out of this chaos, a group of men in Canton, Ohio, gathered on September 17, 1920, to form what was first called the American Professional Football Association. Among them was Jim Thorpe, a world-famous athlete who became the league's first president. In 1922 the name was changed to the National Football League, and though few at the time could have imagined it, this small Midwestern venture would one day become one of the most powerful sports leagues on earth. The early years were fragile. Teams came and went, finances were unstable, and fans still preferred college football. The league's survival depended on grit and passion. Small-town teams like the Akron Pros, Decatur Staleys, and Canton Bulldogs played in front of modest crowds, often for little pay. Yet as the Roaring Twenties unfolded, cities began to embrace the professional game. The Decatur Staleys moved to Chicago and became the Bears, while the Green Bay Packers, founded in 1919 by Curly Lambeau and George Calhoun, built a legacy that would define Wisconsin sports for generations. By the 1930s, stars such as Bronco Nagurski and Red Grange drew attention nationwide. The Great Depression tested the league, but football provided escape and excitement when Americans needed it most. As radio spread across the nation, voices carried play-by-play action into homes, transforming football from a local pastime into a shared national experience. In 1936 the first NFL draft was held, introducing a system that gave weaker teams a chance to compete and keep the league balanced. The game was evolving. Equipment improved, passing rules were loosened, and strategy became more sophisticated. When World War II arrived, many players left to serve, and rosters were patched together with whoever remained. But after the war, America was ready for entertainment again, and the NFL was poised to explode. The 1950s became the league's golden awakening. Television changed everything. Suddenly, football could reach millions who had never seen a live game. The 1958 NFL Championship, known as the greatest game ever played, where the Baltimore Colts defeated the New York Giants in overtime, captivated the nation and demonstrated football's potential as a major spectator sport. Stars like Johnny Unitas, Frank Gifford, and Jim Brown became household names. Cities began to rally around their teams with fierce pride. Stadiums filled, advertisers paid attention, and the NFL transformed from a struggling organization into a growing business empire. Competition soon arrived from the upstart American Football League. As the NFL entered the 2010s, it stood at the peak of global sports entertainment. Stadiums gleamed with advanced technology, TV deals reached record-breaking figures, and stars like Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, Drew Brees, and Peyton Manning were household names around the world. The league had evolved from a gritty Midwestern experiment into a cultural and economic powerhouse that defined Sundays for millions of Americans and attracted audiences across continents. The 2010s marked an era of both glory and controversy. On the field, competition reached new levels of intensity. The decade began with the rise of the New England Patriots dynasty, led by Brady and head coach Bill Belichick. Their consistency, strategy, and resilience produced one of the most successful runs in sports history, with multiple Super Bowl titles and countless unforgettable moments. The Patriots' dominance symbolized excellence, discipline, and the pursuit of perfection. At the same time, other teams began shaping new legacies. The Seattle Seahawks, under coach Pete Carroll and the Legion of Boom defense, captured the imagination of fans with their energy and swagger. Their Super Bowl 48 victory in 2014, where they crushed the Denver Broncos, announced a new generation of dominance built on speed, strategy, and unity. The Kansas City Chiefs emerged toward the decade's end, driven by the incredible talent of Patrick Mahomes, whose creativity and leadership ushered in a fresh, electrifying era of offensive football. Off the field, however, the NFL faced challenges that tested its values and leadership. The issue of player safety became one of the most important discussions in league history. Concussions and chronic traumatic encephalopathy, CTE, were revealed as serious, long-term consequences of repeated head impacts. The stories of former players struggling with health and memory problems shook fans and executives alike. In response, the NFL introduced new safety protocols, improved helmets, adjusted tackling rules, and invested in research. Yet the debate over how to protect players while preserving the essence of football continued to shape the league's identity. The league also faced social and political tensions. In 2016, quarterback Colin Kaepernick knelt during the national anthem to protest racial injustice and police brutality, sparking both support and backlash. His silent act became one of the most polarizing moments in sports history. It forced the NFL, and the country, to confront questions about patriotism, race, and free expression. Over time, the league began taking steps toward acknowledging players' voices, supporting social justice initiatives, and investing in community programs. The NFL's transformation was not just about football, it was about America's ongoing dialogue with itself. Meanwhile, technology reshaped how fans interacted with the sport. High-definition broadcasts, instant replays, social media highlights, and mobile streaming made football